They say money can't buy happiness, but if you had as much gold as Mansa Musa, you could probably at least rent it for a few centuries. Welcome to the channel. I'm History Raptor, and thank you for clicking on this video. Now let's get into this. While names like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates get tossed around in the billionaire club, none of them come close to the financial flex of one man from 14th century West Africa. That's right. Mansa Musa, Emperor of Mali, still holds the title of the richest person to ever walk the earth. No rockets, no tech stocks, no subscription fees. Just good old-fashioned gold, salt, and divine swagger. Let's break this down. Mansa Musa ruled the Mali Empire from 1312 to 1337. During that time, Mali wasn't just a powerful state, it was sitting on half the world's gold supply. Not an exaggeration. Mali's mines were bursting with so much gold, it was like Mother Nature herself had opened a personal savings account for Musa. And gold back then, that wasn't just shiny decoration, it was money. Literal global currency. So imagine ruling over the source of global wealth during a time when everyone wanted gold. Historians have tried to estimate Mansa Musa's net worth in today's money, and most land somewhere around $400 billion. But even that might be conservative. By comparison, poor Jeff Bezos is crawling along at a humble $160 billion. Amateurs. But Musa didn't just sit in a golden palace counting coins like a medieval Scrooge McDuck. Oh no. He made headlines, worldwide headlines, for one particular event, his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. Now, a pilgrimage is a deeply spiritual journey, but Mansa Musa decided to turn it into the Met Gala of medieval Islam. He set off with an estimated 60,000 people, including soldiers, servants, scholars, and entertainers. He brought 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold. And no, that's not a typo. That wasn't a caravan. It was a walking economy. So there he was, Mansa Musa, the gold-laden emperor, making his way across North Africa like a one-man bank vault with a passport. And this wasn't just a trip for the gram. His pilgrimage, or Hajj, was a serious spiritual obligation. But Musa, being Musa, didn't exactly travel incognito. When he hit cities like Cairo and Medina, the locals couldn't believe what they were seeing. Picture it. An endless stream of lavishly dressed men, golden accessories glittering in the sun, and camels swaying under mountains of treasure. He handed out gold to the poor. He gifted it to merchants. He even tipped street musicians like a royal Simon Cowell. And the impact? Catastrophic, in the most Musa way possible. His generosity was so wild, so excessive, that it actually caused inflation. The Egyptian dinar plummeted. Gold lost its value. The economy in Cairo took over a decade to stabilize. Can you imagine giving away too much charity and accidentally nuking the GDP? That's Mansa Musa's version of a mic drop. And of course, people noticed. Word of this mysterious African emperor spread fast. European map makers who didn't even know Timbuktu was real suddenly started drawing West Africa on their maps, not just as a blank space or a sea monster zone, but with Mansa Musa himself sitting on a golden throne, holding a nugget the size of a mango. It was the 14th century version of going viral. Suddenly, people across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia were buzzing. Who is this guy? Where is Mali? And more importantly, can we borrow some gold? Now, you might think a man who just gave away half his GDP on a spiritual journey might have a quieter return home. Nope. Musa came back to Mali even more fired up. Inspired by the architecture and education he saw during his travels, he brought back scholars, artists, and architects with him. He didn't just flex his wealth, he invested it. This guy turned Timbuktu into a thriving cultural and intellectual center. Think of it as the Harvard, MIT, and Google HQ of medieval Africa, all rolled into one. He built mosques, libraries, and schools, including the famous Sankore University, which housed hundreds of thousands of manuscripts. Scholars from all over the Islamic world traveled to Mali just to study there. While parts of Europe were still trying to figure out basic hygiene, Timbuktu had students debating theology, astronomy, medicine, and mathematics under golden domes. That's not just wealth, that's civilization building. And all of this came from a guy who didn't have a smartphone, didn't launch a rocket, and definitely didn't charge $44 billion for a social media app just to ruin it. Mansa Musa's wealth wasn't just about stacking gold bars like they were Lego bricks. He knew that real power came from using that wealth to lift others up, whether it was through religion, education, or architecture. If Elon Musk dropped his net worth into every school in America, he'd still have billions left over. But Musa? He did that 700 years ago, and he did it on foot. And let's be real, Mansa Musa made it look good. He wasn't hiding his wealth in offshore accounts or pretending to be humble while buying his 5th private island. The man brought 60,000 people, thousands of pounds of gold, camels and designer gear, and gave the whole world a show that's still remembered centuries later. He was the original flexer, the godfather of generational wealth, the man who could walk into a kingdom, drop some coin, and walk out with a statue of himself being carved before he hit the gates. And unlike the billionaires today who spend half their time arguing on Twitter, Musa used his time to build an empire that still echoes in history. Rich, yes, but also wise and generous, and actually respected by everyone. Honestly, it's kind of wild that there's not a Netflix series about this guy yet. Mansa Musa eventually returned from his iconic journey and continued to rule Mali until around 1337, when he passed away. Probably the only time in history someone died, and accountants cried louder than the family. He left behind not only his sons and a powerful empire, but a legacy that made historians scratch their heads for centuries. His successors tried to maintain the prosperity, but without Musa's leadership and savvy economic moves, the Mali Empire slowly began to shrink over the next 100 years. Still, the impact of his rule had already been etched into global history, literally. He appeared on the Catalan Atlas of 1375, one of the most important world maps of the medieval era, seated like a golden boss in the middle of West Africa, holding a gold nugget like it was an afternoon snack. To medieval Europeans, who barely believed Africa even existed beyond deserts and lions, Mansa Musa was a wake-up call. Africa wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. And here's the thing. When we say Mansa Musa was rich, we don't just mean he had a palace and a few nice horses, rich. No, he was break the world economy with your vacation spending, rich. And to this day, no one, not Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, or even a hypothetical team-up between Scrooge McDuck and Iron Man, has come close to that level of wealth in proportion to the global economy of their time. Historians estimate Musa's net worth at the modern equivalent of $400 billion or more. But honestly, that number's kind of meaningless, because his empire didn't run on numbers in a spreadsheet. It ran on real physical wealth, gold, land, influence, education, faith. And the kicker? He didn't hoard it, he shared it. Imagine walking into a city, handing out gold like flyers, and leaving behind schools, mosques, and books instead of crypto scams and lawsuits. That was Musa's style. Now, let's put this into perspective. Jeff Bezos has a yacht so big it needs a yacht to follow it around. Mansa Musa once gave away so much money, people literally begged him to stop. Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into a performance art piece. Mansa Musa built a university that helped educate generations of scholars across Africa and the Islamic world. Bill Gates funds research and philanthropy, which is great. But has he ever accidentally wrecked a national economy with his tip jar? Nope. Musa did that just by being generous. And unlike modern billionaires, whose legacies are tied to stock fluctuations and cringeworthy PR disasters, Mansa Musa's legacy is spiritual, educational, and deeply human. He's proof that wealth doesn't have to isolate, it can inspire. So the next time someone flexes their billionaire status, just smile and say, cool. But are you Mansa Musa rich? Did you expand global trade routes, finance schools, give away literal tons of gold, and make a whole continent rethink economics in one lifetime? No? Then sit down. The gold-draped emperor of Mali still holds the crown, and he did it without ever needing to charge $8 a month for a blue check mark. In a world obsessed with money, fame, and followers, Mansa Musa's story reminds us that real wealth isn't just measured in dollars or likes, but in the legacy you leave behind. And Musa? His legacy is so legendary, we're still talking about it 7 centuries later. He came, he spent, he educated, he conquered. Mansa Musa, the richest man who ever lived, and the only one who could bankrupt a city by accident and still be invited back for tea. If you enjoyed this, please click like and subscribe. There's plenty more history we want to explore.